Completing the square. Completing the square is an important skill, and we'll see that it has many applications. So we need to have a look at that now. So completing the square is an important skill, just to underline the fact that it's an important skill. So consider x squared plus 6x plus 9. That is a perfect square. And why is it a perfect square? Because x squared plus 6x plus 9 is what you get if you multiply out x plus 3, x plus 3, or x plus 3 all squared. You know that squaring something means multiplying it by itself. So we can see why x squared plus 6x plus 9 is a perfect square, because we get it by squaring something. If we can identify perfect squares, we can write any quadratic in a perfect square form. For example, x squared plus 6x plus 10. How does that differ from the x squared plus 6x plus 9 we had? Well, it's x squared plus 6x plus 9, add an extra 1. So the x squared plus 6x plus 9 can be written as x plus 3 all squared, and then we just have the plus 1. And that's known as completed square form. There is a technique that we can use to write a given quadratic in completed square form. Now, the first one we have is x squared minus 12x. What we do is we start off by opening a bracket that's got a square on it. And in that bracket, I'm going to put x, and then I'm going to put half of this coefficient into the bracket, like so. Now, think about that x minus 6 all squared. If I expand that, what do we get? We get x squared minus 6x minus 6x plus 36, or x squared minus 12x plus 36. Now if we look back over here, we want the x squared. We want the minus 12x, but we get this extra 36 that we don't want. So what we do is just take it away. If you expand this out and simplify, you do get x squared minus 12x. Now, same sort of thing here. Open up a bracket, pop in the x and put in half of this coefficient, including the sign. Now let's think about the x minus 5 all squared. So that's x minus 5, x minus 5. Once again, we'll expand out. So we'll get x squared minus 5x minus 5x plus 25, which gives us x squared minus 10x plus 25. So the x squared and the minus 10x, we want those. We don't want the 25, so we need to take that away. And then don't forget this add 7, which we haven't touched yet. So all we need to do is tidy that. X minus 5 all squared minus 25 add 7 is take away 18. Now a very similar example. So we're going to open a squared bracket. In goes x, half of the plus 8. And so x plus 4, x plus 4. And we'll expand that out. Don't forget, always use something like the crab claw to make sure you do the right number of multiplications. So plus 4x plus 4x, add 16, which is x squared plus 8x plus 16. So we get a 16 that we don't want from here. We'll take it away. And don't forget that -3, which we haven't touched yet. And so we have x plus 4 all squared, take away 19. Now this time we have x, and the coefficient here is -1. So we want half of that, so it's going to be -1/2. So take away a half, x take away a half, expand out, gives us x squared minus a half x minus a half x plus a quarter. So these give us the x squared minus x, and then we've got this quarter that we don't want, so we take it away. And then don't forget this +1. And then tidy up, so it's x minus a half all squared, add 3/4. Minus a quarter, add 1 is 3/4. Now, those are all the monic ones. That means that we have a 1 in front of the x squared. And the next couple of examples don't just have 1 in front of x squared. So if you want to practice this at this stage, it's a good idea to pause this video now and come back to it for when you do the non-monics. That's when you've got things like 2x squared and 3x squared, or even minus x squared. There's a couple of those coming up. Now the process is trickier when you have a number in front of the x squared, what's known as a non-monic quadratic. What we do is just consider the first two terms to start with. So what I'm going to do is take out the common factor of 2 from the first two terms, and then I have x squared plus 6x in a bracket, and the plus 13 I'm just going to leave off the end for the moment, but it needs to be there when you write it down because we've got an equal sign here, so what's written down here needs to be equal to what's above it. Note if you expand out you do get 2x squared plus 12x back. Then what we do is complete the square inside the bracket. So what we need is a squared bracket that has x plus 3. Now, without going through all the process, because you've seen this a lot of times, that is going to give me x squared plus 6x. It's also going to give me plus 9, which I don't want. So take off the 9, close the bracket, and then we have the 13 off the end. And now what I do is re-expand the bracket. So it's just like doing 2a plus b, which you know would give me 2a plus 2b. I'm going to get 2 times this squared bracket. So that's going to be 2 multiplied by x plus 3 all squared. And then I'm going to get 2 times -9, which is minus 18. And then I've got the plus 13. And then finally, all I need to do is tidy up the numbers. So I've got twice x plus 3 all squared, take away 5. Now this last one really is quite tricky. Let's just be systematic. I'm going to write down -3x squared minus x, and this must be a plus 2 here. Now what I'm going to do from the first two terms, just the first two terms, is take out -3. That would then give me x squared plus 1/3 x. Think about re-expanding that. -3 times x squared is -3x squared. -3 times 1/3 x would give me minus x. And then, don't forget this plus 2. Now, complete the square inside this first bracket. So I need x, and a half of this coefficient, which would be 1/6 squared. Now if you think about expanding that out, we'd get the x squared, we'd get the plus 1/3 x, we'd get 1 over 36, which we don't want. So let's take that off. Take away 1 over 36, and don't forget this plus 2. Then we re-expand. So we have negative 3 multiplied by the x plus 1/6 all squared, which is the first thing in this bracket. And then negative 3 times negative 1 over 36. Well, that's going to be positive 3 over 36, which is positive 1/12. Add 2. So we have negative 3 x plus 1 over 6 all squared. And don't forget that 2 is 24/12, so altogether that's 25 over 12.